you guys doing? Wait, can you hear me? I'm scared to death of this thing, because every time I talk into them, they go all haywire and feedback. We all right? Yeah. So, I want to thank everybody for having me here today, man. It's a real honor. I'm an addict named Kenny, and it's not an honor, it's actually a blessing to be up here and be able to share my story. Pretty much I'm really nervous, man. I don't ever really share from a standing point in front of a microphone. It's always behind a table in a room full of people that I know. With that being said, let me give you a little background on me. Yeah, I was a drug addict, man. I was fucking hopeless, beat the hell up, beat down, nowhere to go, lost everything I had in my life, and I made it out of it. I'm gonna tell you how. I got, let's start from the beginning here, because I'm a little scattered, you know. Little shot out, you know what I mean? So, right, I came from a great background, great family, man, great family dynamic, you know. My father, my mother, grandparents lived like a block away. All that stuff was great. Awesome childhood. My father was an iron worker, busted his ass to give me everything that he could, and taught me to be the best man that I can be. And when I was about, excuse me, I really don't like talking about this, but I feel like I need to put it out there. When I was 17, man, my father was killed. Someone tried to rob him, shot him in the head. I was actually maybe half a block away from it when it happened. I actually got there, and somebody told me, and I was there before the police were there, before everything was there. And that was a really traumatic moment in my life. You know what I mean? I've lost everything. I was a daddy's boy. I stayed out of trouble. I didn't do none of that. And my father corrected me, you know what I mean? I went home, and if I did something wrong, my mom didn't holler at me. My mom told my dad, and my dad hollered at me, you know? So when my dad was gone, there was really no one to holler at me. So it was off to the races I went. Not necessarily with drugs, just acting out in different ways, man. Came into some money. And this is when I guess I can reflect back now and realize that I was an addict. I had to have 3 cars. I had to have 2 motorcycles. I had to have 50 pairs of shoes, right? So there was where my addiction really started to take off. You know, it wasn't really a drug addiction then. It was more an addiction to fill a void in myself and try to make myself look better, myself feel better because I was empty. Fast forward a little bit, had a child at 24 years old, and it was awesome. My life was fabulous. You know, built an apartment. I had an apartment, had a fiance, all that, and she ended up being a drug addict, man. And my son was born a week later. She was back out on the streets, and I had no idea, you know. And she would come home and sleep, and I'd be like, "What's going on with her, man?" And you know, it must be postpartum depression, you know, because I was clueless to it. I never put myself really around her, and so I kept trying to save that relationship, and that was the first time in my life that I actually ever really truly changed who I was and who I believed in to try to make something work. And by doing that, I said, you know what? Yeah, you want to do some pills? All right, let's take some pills, you know? And my relationship was fine for a week. And then it was off to races with her again. Now, I was first introduced to opiates when I wrecked a motorcycle, died twice, flatlined, and it was like a little taste. It planted the seed for me, I truly believe, of, you know, that being an out for me. Because when I crashed the motorcycle, it was like nothing else mattered. I took a pain pill, and, you know, I was fine, happy, you know. My leg was in 13 pieces, but it was all good. So when I started taking them again, it was filling that void and that, you know, loss of unhappiness and feeling something less of a man, that I couldn't keep a family together or anything like that. And then she left, and it was just me and my son, man. And I continued to take, you know, to get high. Like, it's not a lie. I continued to get high, and that's all that really mattered, man. I lived to use and used to live. Plain and simple. I didn't care. My son would get just a minimal of what he needed. And my sister ended up taking my son, and he was 2 at the time, and I would sleep on her couch because I lost everything I had. And I'm a tattoo artist, so I would work, and work, and I would stay at work to get high and not go home, and I would stay there till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But I'd always made money, and I was always successful at it. I was very successful at, producing income for a shop. The owner of the shop really trusted in me and was never there. Maybe once a month he would pop up, and he was actually a very, very good friend of mine, and he saved my life. He came up to me one day and was like, "Look, dude, I'm enabling you to kill yourself. You're just, you are awesome, you make me a lot of money, but I just can't deal with it no more. Like, you're killing yourself on my dollar, and that's it." So that's when I got introduced to recovery the first time. And I went, I'm not gonna tell you I went, joyous and happy. My original plan of going away was, look, man, I'm gonna go away for like 3 days and come back out and keep using, charge my batteries up, and he'll think everything's okay. And then when I went away, I actually sat there and one of the texts there made me get out of my detox room and go sit in this meeting. And I sat in the meeting and I learned a little bit and I listened and I was like, you know what? All right, things are starting to make a little bit of sense, man. And that's where I heard the words surrender, all your basic stuff, sponsor. I said, what's a sponsor? You know what I mean? Like, just stuff and programs like NA. I never thought anything about that. Dude, that's the fellowship that I chose because I felt like, most comfortable there. Hold on, let me calm down a second. Nervous. Sorry, folks. So when I went away, man, they did a lot of stuff for me, man. They really, it opened my eyes. First off, I wasn't a drug addict that went out and hung out with other drug addicts. You know what I mean? I didn't like to share. I'm not a sharer. No, so I would just shit by myself. So I really never experienced anything like going into a room full of fucking people that all wanted the same exact thing, and so much diversity in there, and you would get somebody that would be in there, and I'm like, yeah, that dude ain't gonna talk to me, and it comes right up, yo, what's up, man? What are you doing? It was a welcoming feeling to have somebody accept me in there, and so that kind of showed me a little bit about fellowshipping, and then I started seeing people that I knew, and I was scared to go into meetings like after I left. But I ended up staying in rehab for 30 days. There I go with that scattered stuff again. I'm always scattered, always bouncing around. You never stay on track, It's like, all right. So I'm sorry if you guys are getting lost, but I'm just a mess, man. This is really nerve-wracking. So so I did stay. I ended up staying in treatment for 32 days, I believe, right? And I couldn't believe I did it. And that's when I got the most. It was insane. I literally remember getting picked up from treatment and my brother going to me, yo, what do you want to do the most? And I said, I want to go home and sleep in my bed. And then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have a fucking bed. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm sleeping on a fucking couch, man. Like, what the hell? And then it was the first time I literally seen actual, just the clarity in my mind was so intense and real that it was just beautiful, man. It was like seeing some stuff. I know it sounds really corny, especially coming from me, but I could literally walk outside and be like, wow, man, the clouds look really nice today. I've been staring at the same damn clouds for 38 years. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden they look nice. It's just the little things, man, that people take for granted every day that I was just so oblivious to, man. The impact that I make on just people on a daily, and don't even know it as being, of course not when I was using, but now, so, all right, let's go down, let me back up a little bit. So, after my first time away, right, I did good, man. I had a sponsor, I got a home group, did all that stuff, right, and I got, I made it up to, 4 years clean, making an honest, solid, working a program, but doing very minimal. You know what I mean? All right, I don't really feel like looking at myself today, so I'm not going to do no step work. You know what I mean? And it would get to the point where my sponsor would be like, dude, like, you know, like, you got to do something, bro. I want it by this day. And then I would rush and do my step work, not thorough, nothing like that, you know. And then I met my fiance, my wife now, actually. God, thank God she's not here. And I started, you know, life was looking good, man. It was feeling full again and feeling great. And yeah, so like planning a wedding, spent $30,000 like planning this day wedding, and she was like getting high the whole time. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what the hell? Like, and I didn't know it because I'm the stupidest drug addict alive. Like, I'm like, how the hell do I not know she? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? And so then, of course, you know, I do what I'm supposed to do. I call my sponsor. Yo, man, she's getting high, dude. He's like, yeah, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're an asshole. So I stopped talking to him, right? I'm like, I'm not talking to him no more. And I go to a meeting, share about it, and somebody calls me, she calls me, and she's like, why are you sharing about me at a meeting? And I'm like, yo, like, chill, you know? And then that broke my distrust for the whole, like, meeting thing. Well, guess what? You stop going to meetings, you stop showing up, you stop doing stuff. You know what I mean? Eventually you let a little door open up for your addiction to creep in, right? And she calls me and she's like, listen, we need to meet up. And she gets honest with me and tells me, and I'm like, all right, and what do I do? And I'm like, all right, well, you know, she's like, you're never gonna let me live this down. And I'm like, all right, well, here, I'll do one, right? Greatest idea in the world. I'll do one so that, you know, I can't judge you, you can't judge me. Yeah, that lasted a whole year. So I continued, and let me tell you something, when they say that, you know, your drug picks up right where it left off, fucking right it did, man. That thing came back like a beast that had been caged up for 5 years, and it was living hell, like legitimate hell for me, man. I went right back to losing everything again, lost all that money for the wedding, because we called the wedding off, lost everything. Legitimately everything, and my main goal was I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to focus and get her to go to treatment and everything will be fine. And of course, you know, me being the addict that I am, I'm like, yeah, I can take care of her. Yeah, so I'm chasing her around and not worrying about myself, killing myself, running myself into the ground, looking like a fool, you know. Got to the point where I said, you know what, we got in a fight one night, and it was like crazy tit for tat stuff, man. Like, she sent me this like stupid picture, and at this point, my kid, who's now 13, called his mother, who's never in his life, it like shows up once every 6 months maybe, and was like, Dad's off the chain and come get me. Like, and I'm thinking deep down inside, like, yeah, we just moved. So he's down there playing with his friends where his mom lives. Motherfucker ain't got no friends down there, you know what I mean? He just didn't want to be around me. I was a hot mess that didn't give a shit about no one, anything else, or anybody but myself, right? So he's at his mom's, she's messing with me, and I'm just at wit's end, man. I cannot put the drug down, I cannot do anything, I can't do nothing at all but get high. I could not leave my house. I could not stop. And I'm like crying out for attention, and I ended up in my bedroom with a gun to my head, like, I'm just gonna fucking kill myself. And for some reason, I got a little piece of, it was like everything I learned that 5 years before I relapsed about myself, and everything that I did for myself, I disqualified. You know, I just said, I don't know nothing. It didn't work the first time. But I still had seeds that were planted from my recovery, and it was like, I was like, I know the answer. You know, I really do. I know the answer to this. And so I shot a hole in my wall and ran out of my bedroom, because that's the only way I could leave the house. I was petrified. I was like, I'm going to jail. And it was funny too, because I ran right down the street into a cop. I was like, hi officer, mangled, right? And he's like, are they playing with fireworks up there? I'm like, He's like, have a good day. And I was like, all right, cool. You know, next day, rehab I went, man. And it was the hardest. It was horrible. It was the hardest jarring, most breaking experience I've ever had in my life. The fact that the first time I went away, my son was so young that he really didn't notice, he just knew Daddy was going to get better. This time I had to physically sit there, face him, say, Bob, I'm sorry, dude. This is what I'm doing, and this is where I gotta go. And he said, thank God. And you know what I mean? And I'm like, all right. So I went away. My boss was on board with me. He's like, all right, dude, well, do what you gotta do. And I'm like, okay. That was it. And, you know, the whole time I'm running around getting high, like, I can't let them know because they'll fire me, you know. And all I had to really do was just go to somebody, reach out a little bit, and say, yo, I need some help, you know. And I didn't do it. So I went away. Now, the family don't have much money. I just moved into a house, got bills, and my kid's about to start school. I'm like, all right, I can stay 2 weeks, you know? Like, so I had to stay for 2 weeks, right? And I stayed, and then I left, and it was not a good idea. It was the hardest thing I've ever did in my life. When you leave and you go into a fellowship like I do, usually you leave rehab in 30 days and you walk in there and you get a key tag and you feel like you accomplished something. I left with, like, I gotta wrap it up? Oh wow, I didn't even get half my story out yet. Damn! Did I really beat the timer for once? Oh, holy! That's awesome. Yo, listen. So, back to what I was saying is, I'm 9 months clean today, thank God. Possible, you know, and I hope I did what I was supposed to do tonight because I just can't believe I talked that long. You know? I just spoke in a meeting the other night and I got so nervous. I was like, oh, I'm done, I'm not getting any thanks. And everyone was like, really, bro? It was like 3 minutes. You know? But I want to thank you, sir, for everything you're doing, and it was a wonderful pleasure to be here, and everyone else too. And thank you very much, guys. And that's all I got.